Vanished, created and narrated by Ravi. Chapter 5: The Battle and Other Murky Developments. Deputy President Zuma succeeded in wriggling out of most of the cases against him, but when his financial advisor confessed to receiving bribes on his behalf, President Mbeki grabbed the opportunity and threw Zuma out of his cabinet, thus stripping him of his post as deputy president. This was in the year 2005, and Zuma took the battle to President Mbeki relentlessly. By this time, the Sharma brothers had also cultivated Zuma and were covertly supporting him to the dismay of Mbeki. The situation grew complicated for Srikanth. There was a spate of political assassinations, some of which he feared was orchestrated by the brothers. He was now desperate to leave the group and move out of South Africa. In his role as the finance head, he now had been forced to involve himself in all kinds of murky deals and transactions. The political situation was volatile, and if things went wrong, he could well end up as a scapegoat for the sins committed by the brothers. Talking to his school friend was futile, as the brothers were now riding on a new high. The Sharma brothers were in fact plotting and planning to somehow get Zuma elected as the next president of South Africa. The elections were due in 2009, and the brothers were getting more and more ruthless and reckless in their actions, supremely confident of having their way. Their power and clout were now unparalleled. Srikanth was sickened by these developments, and with each passing day, his life became miserable. He felt suffocated and helpless. There was no one he could turn to for help. He was getting more and more paranoid and depressed, and this was also telling on his health. He had already sent his family back to India, fearing their safety. The change in Srikanth's demeanor was not lost on Vijay. He could understand that Srikanth was disturbed and was in some kind of emotional battle with himself. He knew the reasons and was not surprised when Srikanth packed off his family to India. He never thought that Srikanth would be a braveheart like him and his brothers. He knew that his friend would never understand or share the vision of his family. But he had been a very valuable asset to them in navigating these stormy times. Vijay wished that Srikanth could continue at least till the elections were done, but that may not be so. Vijay had spoken to his brother about Srikanth and what to do with him. He was one person who had a very deep insight and knowledge about the affairs of the group. Could he pose a danger to them? Could he turn out to be a weak link, their Achilles heel? The current situation for the group was comfortable, but they were sandwiched between Mbeki and Zuma. Their support had primarily been for Mbeki, and he was popular and running a second term as president. But the African National Congress was unpredictable. Zuma had already lost his place in the government in the worst possible way and was smarting badly. He was street smart, wily, and still had an influence within the party. None of the cases against him had stuck in the courts, but the confession of his key aide had done him in. Did Srikanth have it in him to protect the brothers if ever he was taken in? The brothers doubted. The Sharma brothers had already decided to put in their might behind Zuma, who they felt would emerge a winner in the end. They had done a lot of favors for him, But if their predictions did not come true, the group would be in trouble. So these were tense times, and they had to navigate very carefully. Moreover, they had to ensure that their own house was in order and there were no chinks in their armor. A decision on Srikanth had to be made. They could either release him from the group or may have to work out some other plans for him, which could be unpleasant for both the friends. After all, Vijay considered Srikanth as part of the family and empire. It was difficult for him to decide, and he therefore left it to the wisdom of his brother. President Mbiki's second term was nearing its inevitable end, and he knew that after his second term he would not be eligible to run for a third term. However, he was not prepared to quit and was therefore making all out attempts to convince his party to nominate him for presidency for a third term. On the other hand, Zuma's efforts to win a nomination from his party was also making good progress. He had managed to win over most of his opponents and had the backing of a strong and moneyed lobby behind him. It was not easy and did involve some bloodshed, but it was worth the price. Srikanth, meanwhile, was getting worse in health. He could not concentrate on his work. He worried endlessly and was fearful of everyone and everything. He felt that he was being watched constantly and followed wherever he went. His phones could be bugged, his food could be poisoned, and he could be killed any day, any time, anywhere. He desperately wished to share his woes with someone trusted, but he was isolated here in South Africa and had not kept in touch with anyone in India. Even if he had, he was afraid to communicate lest someone should find out. He knew that the brothers would not let go of him easily, for he had all the access to vital information about the group. There were several suspicious dealings in India as well. Srikanth was not yet imprisoned, but he already felt that he was. He was at least relieved that his family was away from South Africa. Desperate thus to share his feelings with someone, he began writing diaries. Not the chronological stuff, but ramblings, often incoherent, mostly in despair. The handwriting veered from being legible and neat at times to often turn into scribblings as if done in a great hurry. In many places, the written lines would move from up to down instead of left to right. These were writings of a man going mad with fright and despair. End of chapter 5. Keep listening.